Hi everybody, it's Billie here, and today we want to have a look at the IPA. Now, first of all, what is the IPA? Well, IPA is exactly what you can see on the screen. It's those funny little symbols that tell us how to pronounce a word. It's really standing for International Phonetic Alphabet. So you can see I from international, P from phonetic, and A from alphabet. Short, IPA. Now, the IPA is an alphabet that contains all the sounds of all the languages that exist. I know this is a lot, and it is pretty big, as you will see in this video. But differently to our normal alphabets, we have sound symbols. The idea was really that using sound symbols would allow us to write down all the languages that we find on this planet. Even the ones where we do not know the script, or where we maybe don't have a script. Obviously, most languages these days have a script, but still not all. There are some languages from some tribes, for example in the Amazon, who do not have a script. Even those can be transcribed using symbols from the IPA. So when we write in IPA using sound symbols, we usually use the word transcribing. We transcribe what we hear using the IPA sound symbols. Each sound is represented by a symbol. So have a look. I've written down a couple of example symbols here in orange. We've got f, j, e, f. Obviously, there are many more. These are just some examples. Most of the sound symbols from the IPA are based on Latin script, but sometimes also on Greek. Now, very often you will see IPA being used between slashes, just like the one you can see here on the slide. And this is to show a broad transcription. What does that mean, broad? That really means that we show all the individual sounds that you would usually hear when somebody speaks, that most people would use. Here's an example. For example, in the sentence, there are some people. Most people would say what you can see transcribed here on the slide. So this phrase is the most common pronunciation. It's a broad transcription. However, if you want to transcribe exactly what one person said, maybe showing their regional dialect and, some peculiarities that they use when they speak, you can also use a narrow transcription and you would use other brackets. Now, the IPA consists of 107 letters or sound symbols. We have some for consonants, and you can see some examples here. And then we have some for vowel sounds. And again, I've written down a few here as examples. We also have 31 diacritics. Now, diacritics are other symbols that we use to show phonetic detail. For example, a little elevated H letter shows that a sound is aspirated. So here we have T with an elevated H, and that means that the T is aspirated. For example, in the word top, T, we show aspiration here. Another diacritic that you might have seen is this little tilde that is crossing the sound, and this is really to show a velarized that is a dark sound. If you want to find out more about dark and light L, make sure to watch my other video on that. Additionally, we also have 17 suprasegmentals. Now, I know all of this sounds a little bit funny, probably. Diacritics, suprasegmentals, what is that all about, you probably think? Now, suprasegmentals are used to show length, tone, stress, and intonation. And you will probably have seen some of those before. In fact, I showed you one of those before. The one that looks like a colon, the two dots here next to the sound ah. Ah shows that this is a long vowel sound now. Remember, some vowel sounds are short and some are long. If you want to show that a vowel sound is long, you use the suprasegmental, the colon. And then another one that you might have seen before is the tiny little line here that's really looks like an apostrophe. And that is to show word stress, primary word stress within a word. You often see this when you look up a word in the dictionary and you check out the phonemic transcript of this word. You will see the colon to see long vowel sounds, but you will also see the little apostrophe indicating that the following syllable is the one carrying the primary stress. Again, if you want to find out more about word stress, primary stress, secondary stress, have a look at my other video. I'll link to it in the description box below. So, in total, we have 107 letters, sound symbols, 31 diacritics, and 17 suprasegmentals. It's a pretty big alphabet, if you ask me. But remember, it has to be big because we want to be able to transcribe all the languages that exist. Now, how can you use the IPA when you type? Now, these days, we don't really handwrite as much. Usually we type. And obviously, your normal average keyboard will not contain IPA symbols. So what you need to do is you need to use a special website with a keyboard containing the IPA. Thankfully, there are many free keyboards available. You don't have to pay, and it makes it very easy to transcribe using IPA. I'm going to link the ones that I use in the description box below so you can check those out. Now, if you want to see the entire IPA in a table with examples and all of the sound symbols, the 107 sound symbols, you need to go to the website of the IPA. On the website of the association, you can see all of the symbols, because obviously this would be a very, very long video if I showed you all 107 letters and all of the diacritics. That would be too long. But if you would like to see them, maybe also for your own language, your own first language, not English, you want to see the symbols being used, then check out the website from the International Phonetic Association. Again, I will put a link in my description box below. Let's look at the history of the IPA, because that's really interesting too. When was it invented? Now, it was invented in the late 19th century, so it's pretty young for an alphabet, if you think of it. It was invented exactly in 1886 by French and British language teachers, and they formed the International Phonetic Association. They developed the very first alphabet, and then in 1888, that first alphabet was revised and it became the first IPA. It was originally developed by Alexander John Ellis, Henry Sweet, Daniel Jones, and Paul Passy. And it has been revised many times since then. So what we use nowadays is a little bit different to that very first IPA. Why was it invented? You might think, why did they even bother inventing an alphabet? Did they not have anything else to do? There was a reason for this. They wanted to find a standardized way to show sounds in writing. Obviously, many languages use different alphabets. In English, we use a different alphabet compared to Arabic or Thai, or even Japanese or Chinese. And the idea was to have one alphabet that we could use to transcribe any language using the same symbols. Who uses the IPA? Well, first of all, language teachers and students. You and me, basically. But also linguists, translators, singers and actors, lexicographers, those are people writing dictionaries, and also speech therapists. All of those peoples in those different professions often use IPA. So to summarize again, IPA, 107 letters for all of the sounds from all of the languages you can think of, 31 diacritics, 17 suprasegmentals, and we use it really to have a standardized way to transcribe languages. Now, we use it to transcribe English. So obviously we don't need 117 sound symbols because English doesn't have that many sounds. So we take quite a lot of the symbols from the IPA to combine them and to show the consonant and the vowel chart of English. But there are sometimes some exceptions. You think, why are there exceptions? Wasn't the idea to standardize this? Yes, but unfortunately, you know, people sometimes like to change things a little bit. So you will notice that, for example, the one we use a lot for British English is a little bit different. There's some symbols that look a little bit different to the ones from the IPA. And then also remember that there are obviously two charts. There's one for RP, that is received pronunciation, and is the standard from British English. And then there's GA, this is the General American English chart. And when you compare them side by side, you'll notice that there are some differences with regards to the sound symbols and the way they look. Now, there was a little bit of a problem with the IPA because those funny symbols, we cannot type them using our average keyboard. We need a separate keyboard, really. So now people thought, could we not just have alternative symbols using our keyboard? So introducing SAMPA. What is SAMPA now? I'm showing you a lot of funny words in this video, I apologize. Now, SAMPA is a computer-readable phonetic script using a normal PC keyboard. So instead of having the funny symbols, each funny symbol basically has a symbol you can find on a standard keyboard. Why was that done? Well, that was developed in the late 80s of the last century, and really it only exists for sounds of some languages. It wasn't developed for all of the 170 sound symbols, only for some. The reason was that people wanted to make it easier to transcribe an IPA and to type those symbols on a computer. The problem back then in the 80s was that there was a problem with the text encoding using IPA symbols because they looked so strange. Now, we don't really have this problem anymore. However, the SAMPA is still used a lot in speech technology, and if you work in the area or you study maybe something to do with speech technology, you will probably have come across SAMPA or SAMPA-X. Now, this is a variation of SAMPA. It was developed in 1995. It includes all the characters of the 1993 version of the IPA. And this is, again, just to make it a little bit easier to transcribe using a keyboard. Here's an example, because you probably think, what does that look like now? I know what the IPA looks like. What about the SAMPA-X? So here are a couple of words just to show you some examples. We have, for example, the word child. And in the second column, you see the IPA, child. And then next to it, on the right hand side, you see the SAMPA-X transcription. So you can see that ch is t with a capital S. And then the I, the diphthong I, is with capital A and I. And the second, well, the one after I really is a okay, it looks, using my font sizes here, the I and the look the same, but they're different. And then we have d. I've also given you the word that, pleasure, and you'll notice something in the word pleasure and computer, because those words both have a schwa sound. In fact, computer has two schwa sound in the first and the last syllable. And the symbol for the schwa is the @ sign. So I think that's pretty funny. I don't know why they decided for that one. It's become such an important symbol these days, but it's also the SAMPA-X symbol for the schwa. And then just for fun, I've also written down the word English and IPA and SAMPA-X. Well, I hope you've enjoyed it. And if you feel like you've become a bit more confident using IPA, maybe through watching my videos, why don't you write me a comment using IPA? Or if you fancy SAMPA-X. I'm looking forward to seeing those comments.